This is Do It For A Living, your source for inside information on the future of automotive performance.
Hit it head on and deal with it. Often you sort of come out the other side and go, well, what was I even worried about?
What's holding you back from starting or growing your business into what it can be? Well, if you're listening to this, it's not a lack of information. What you're about to hear is all you need to get motivated and start making waves. Do It For A Living podcast details the journey of today's true players in their own words. Find out how they broke out so you can too. The time is now. The time is always now. So I've got Andre, Simon, and Ben Silcock here all the way from Queenstown, New Zealand. And these guys are here from HP Academy. Boys, how's it going?
Really good. Thanks, Reed. Thanks for having us along.
Not at all. Thank you guys. All the way from New Zealand. Early morning over there or mid-morning?
We're mid-morning, just coming out to lunch.
All right. So I like to dive right in. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your business. Who are you guys and how did you get started?
Okay, well, I guess it is a reasonably long story. I know we've only got an hour, so I'll try and keep it to the point. So my own background, I'm kind of the tuning side of the business, and Ben, who will chime in shortly, I guess, is really the IT, web and marketing guru to our business. It kind of started well back before High Performance Academy. I ran a performance tuning workshop in Wellington, New Zealand for the last 14 years. I've literally just sold that business to focus on High Performance Academy. And I went through school and university, always had a passion for cars, started racing karts when I was 13, pulled a motor apart and put it back together about that age, and it still worked, which was a damn miracle. And going through university, I did a Bachelor of Technology. While I was doing that, I was sort of working on friends' cars, and one thing sort of led to another. After I graduated from university, moved back to my hometown of Wellington, and I was studying for a master's degree. And over that time, I kind of just fell into doing some performance tuning, and I was doing it mainly for friends, and then one thing led to another, and I ended up involved with a couple of rally teams, and all of a sudden I was doing more tuning and working on cars than I was studying for my master's, and made the decision to start STM, or Speed Tech Motorsport, and not to be confused with STM tuned in the US either, for your US listeners. Okay. So that workshop, I started it up, and really it was just a one-man band. It was just me doing my thing, and I kind of, at that time, I had a passion for drag racing. And back at that time, the fastest four-wheel drive, I should also say my passion, I guess, is import cars. Fastest four-wheel drive import in the country was running a flat 12, and I looked at it and I thought, hey, you know what, I can do better than that.
How long ago was that?
Oh, honestly, I couldn't even tell you accurately. Maybe late 90s, I'm guessing. We're talking a fair way back now. So I looked at it and I thought, I can run a 10. I want to run a 10. And I didn't really have an affiliation to a brand. I kind of looked around at what was on the market, and I looked at it and I thought, you know what, Mitsubishi Evo 3, which again, you guys in the US market never got, that's going to be my car. That's what I'm going to do. So we got hold of one. It was a stolen and recovered car, actually, built it up, and over the course of about 18 months, built that car to run a 10-second pass. And it turns out that's exactly what it did on only its second pass ever down the drag strip. It ran a 10.9. I think that was my third pass down a drag strip. So I kind of thought at that time, well, maybe I should have set my sights a bit higher. But that drag racing bug kind of bit. And over the course of the next 4 or 5 years, we developed the car further. And in the end, it was a methanol-fueled 4G63 running 54 PSI boost using a Motec ECU and an HKS turbocharger, and we were making 1,166 wheel horsepower, revved to about 10,500 RPM, and that car ran a PB of an 823 at 180 mile an hour. And at the time, it held the record for the fastest four-wheel drive Mitsubishi Evo outright. So that was kind of my initiation to performance tuning. And another car we got involved with at that time, the US market held the Mitsubishi world record. They didn't really recognize the Evo 3. So we had a customer with an Evo 9, and we built that up as a drag car. And that went 834 at 169 mile an hour. So at the time, that beat AMS's world record. And we kind of claimed the outright Mitsubishi four-wheel drive world record, which was only taken off us, I think, last year by, funnily enough, STM tuned in the US. So
not to be confused with STM and New Zealand.
Exactly. Yeah, it's all very confusing. So I guess that's kind of gets me the runs on the board. You know, I had quite a bit of exposure to high-end performance engine tuning. Over that time, what I found was, from a workshop owner's perspective, and I feel like this is really reiterated all around the world by everyone I talk to, the aftermarket performance tuning scene everywhere in the world is this really scary place. There's kind of a lack of trust out there in that industry. We've got customers coming in the door, they've heard horror stories on the internet, they've read forums, and they're scared to bring their car to a tuner because they think before they even walk in the door that something's going to go wrong, they're going to get ripped off, overcharged, or whatever. And I found that really frustrating. We were seeing cars come through the door at STM that had been tuned elsewhere, and you only had to go for a drive around the block or maybe even look at the maps in the ECU, and you straight away knew that whoever had tuned it just had no concept of the basic principles behind what they were trying to do. And I think, to take it back one step, I think the real problem with that industry, the tuning industry, is there is no stepping stones, no pathway to take to become a performance engine tuner. Say you want to become a mechanic or even a plumber or an electrician, you go to Polytechnic or you do an apprenticeship, and there is a process you go through, and over 3 or 4 years you become qualified and you come out the end and you've got a recognised qualification. So people know that when they're dealing with you, you know what you're doing, and that doesn't exist in our industry. So basically, hey, you've got enough money to buy a dyno? Sweet, you're an engine tuner now. And that's it. You can open your doors and you can start taking money off people to tune their cars. And the problem with that as well is because these guys, a lot of them, hey, and don't get me wrong, there are some really smart guys who do a great job, and I don't want to discredit those tuners out there. The other ones, however, because they don't understand what they're doing, they're getting by on luck a lot of the time. The whole industry ends up this weird sort of cloak and dagger society, if you like, and they're trying to make out that tuning is this black art, it's all smoke and mirrors. And I just wanted to say, you know, it's not. Tuning is not magic. It's simply a science, and it's one that can be taught. So what we did from there through Speed Tech is we actually started a school inside of STM called the STM School of Performance Education, where we actually sort of started providing some of that training. Now, that's kind of moved on to High Performance Academy, which we'll want to talk about as well, obviously. So that's kind of our background. That's where I've come from, just to put it in sort of perspective.
And somewhere in the middle, I got a job at Andre's workshop, cleaning the dyno on a Wednesday. I'd go in and I'd mop the dyno floors. At the time, I was running a website design business that was not going too well. Enough to pay my rent, but that's just about it. And I had an online car magazine here in New Zealand where we just featured cool cars from around the country, and that got me out and about and meeting all sorts of really interesting people. And then I kind of just grew my position at STM. Decided actually, to be fair, probably to the day I left, I cleaned the dyno bay quite regularly, just because it was just one of my things. I like to have it real nice.
Ben is really good at cleaning things. Definitely.
So how did you guys become partners? Meaning, like, are your skill sets complementary?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is one of the reasons Ben and I work really well together. My strengths are obviously the tuning and technical aspect, and Ben drilled a hole through his finger just 2 days ago, which shows you how well he goes together with tools. But yeah, his skill set is really the marketing. He's a guru there.
So you guys get together, and at what point does HP Academy start to come to fruition? When does it start to gain some traction?
When we were working at SDM and we were running in-person training courses at SDM, it gained quite a bit of traction. Like right off the bat, we had customers and other shops and other enthusiasts throughout the country that were really interested in the information that we were providing. So that was kind of a bit of a driver for us to go bigger. And once we had quite a big following on Facebook because of these cool drag cars that we were doing, and we promoted our training courses on Facebook. And we had a whole bunch of people say, hey, we'll buy the course notes from you for the same price that these people are walking in the door and doing the course for. And we're like, hey, this is a great idea, but we don't really like doing things by halves. So we busted our ass, and using the camera that we had and some lights that we had, we filmed that whole course over a couple of months, and edited it together, got it online in sort of in a reasonably basic form, and then made our first sale. And that kind of drove us just to push harder. And
how was that? When that first sale came through, were you guys pumped or what?
I think we talked about that this morning, and I think we just about blew straight past that and maybe didn't even recognize that first sale for what it really was. And I think looking back, that's almost a little sad. It was a bit of a whirlwind back then, and we had so much on our plate, which we still do, that sometimes it's really important when you have successes like that, I think, to recognize them and really celebrate them for what they are.
Yeah, it was hard to associate that one first sale as the starting point of the business, where really we were like, okay, cool, we actually wanted to help 1,000 people, and now we've done one, so that's pretty pitiful. It's kind of probably where we were aiming for. Like, hey, we need to work harder if we want this to work. So we didn't celebrate. We kind of just kept working through it.
I think the other thing about it at that point with High Performance Academy, so I mean, we were both still involved with STM full time, and really we had no idea if this concept was going to take off, it was going to work. And it really was a proof of concept business for probably what was the last 18 months. We had this really shitty website that was pieced together. We had a whole bunch of sort of hoops that we had to make customers jump through in order to make a sale. They had dual logins. There was a forum. It was ugly. And the whole thing was just really messy, but it worked, and that was, what we've built, everything we've now got on the back of.
So you guys had like a minimum viable product then. You guys were saying like, this is what we're trying to get after. You have to jump through hoops. People are doing that. So that's telling you, look, this concept has some opportunity. So the cool thing that I think about HP Academy is that you guys have, like a modern approach to EFI tuning. Your programs are available online, and then they're sectioned into short topic-based videos. So the useful feature that I see from you guys is that it's short videos that a tuner can use in the moment. For example, like if I was configuring injector latency in a Motec M1 ECU, and I needed clarification on the process, you guys have a short video covering just that topic. And that's cool because your service becomes like a physical tool in the tuner's toolbox. Yeah. You can pull out just the injector latency tool without having to sift through an hour-long video.
And that's exactly what the thought behind making the videos quite short. And when you're going through the course the first time, that kind of, we have had complaints that's annoying. Why can't I just watch it in one big 2-hour-long lump? But for the guy who wants to go back in the future and reference that and use it as a tool, we kind of... we thought of it when we were training our tuners, like how would it be most useful to him? So instead of him getting out of the car, walking to the front office saying, hey, Andre, explain to me how this works. He can, while he's still on the dyno, open another tab, go directly to that course page, watch a 1-minute video, and he's tuning again. So he's saved himself like 15 minutes and 10 minutes of Andre's time.
Right. Because it's a lot of information flying at you at once. So when you're sitting in front of a video, it's one concept after another. It's hard to absorb it all. It's nice to be able to reference back to just the one that you need, that one tool that you need in the moment is killer.
I think that is a really good point. And I mean, our belief is that you should get as much information from as many sources as you possibly can, and be that in-person training, reading books, whatever that comprises, the more information, obviously, as long as it's accurate, the better. The problem, or the advantage, I guess, what we've got with the way we've done this is if you attend in-person training, and that's really great, you've got some huge benefits, but you've got one-on-one banter backwards and forwards with the tutor. That's really powerful stuff. And there's sort of a certain level of valuable information that comes from that. The problem I find, as I've been through this myself, is maybe in a month's time or maybe in 6 months' time, you've got a car on the dyno where you think back and you're like, okay, now I can't quite remember all of the detail of that particular aspect that I want to know about. And that was why the way we've done that, you can constantly reference back. Once you purchase a course, then you own it for life. You can watch it as many times as you like, anywhere you've got an internet access. So it is really easy, and as we've talked about, the way it's broken down into modules, it's quick to find exactly what you want.
Do you think of yourselves as entrepreneurs, and do you guys think of yourselves as tuners or business people, and has that changed over time?
I'll start with, definitely everything has changed over the course of my business with STM, and I mean, I have to be thankful for Ben coming on board in STM, because, like I said at the start, the whole business initially, I don't think I thought of myself as an entrepreneur. I kind of fell into something I could do and there was a demand for, and back then the whole thing was simply about, how can I afford the next Go Fast part to drop another 10th off my PB? And man, I was walking around in clothes that were 5 years old. I was paying myself barely enough to pay rent and put food on the table. Baby. Exactly. But damn, I had the latest. I had an M800 in that car the week after they were released. I had a ball bearing turbo when those were brand new. So that car had the best of everything. But man, I was suffering. And Ben, I think our skill sets are very complementary, and I've definitely grown in business over those years. Got to the point where I realized, no, actually, this is a serious business. I need to take it seriously. It's not about making my car faster. It's about making money and making the business successful and sustainable. And, you know, that's probably the time where I sort of thought, okay, no, I am a business owner. We are entrepreneurs. And that sort of went from strength to strength. But I think I definitely have Ben to thank for a lot of that as well.
Yeah, I think I've been an entrepreneur for as long as I can remember. I remember trying to sell snails in primary school. And I remember selling like seeds. I'd pick seeds off trees, and I'd try and sell them on the street, kind of like in a lemonade stand.
Yeah.
So a few failed business ventures there.
I'm glad that we've learned from those.
For sure. How does your mindset change from the idea of building a system instead of being the system? So it sounds like you guys figured that out quite a while ago when Andre and maybe Ben helped you realize this, that you were the system. So if you were gone, you can't tune cars. But if you could figure out a way to predictably and accurately train somebody to become a tuner, then you can build a system without being the system. Yeah. Does that? Yeah. Is that a concept that makes sense and is?
Yeah, agreed. I really enjoy figuring out how to do things the first time. Like, really enjoy it. I like it when I'm stuck with a problem and I'm like, well, how can we fix this problem? I trial a whole bunch of things, and then once I've figured it out, I really don't want to do it again, ever. Is pretty much is what it came down to. And there was things like when I came into Andre's business at STM, taking one thing, customer service was was pretty bad. You'd get there and there was a little black book, and that was their contact management system and their booking system. And it was just this little black book with scribbles all through it. And I'm like, I kind of graduated from dyno, cleaning the dyno, to sitting at the front desk answering the phones. And these people would be like, hey, Andre said he was calling me yesterday, but he hasn't. And I need a quote about some stuff that I talked to him about yesterday. And I'm like, okay, Andre, how does this all work? And he's like, oh, I have no idea. I can't remember. We talked about
Andre was the system. He was the system.
Exactly. So what we did there is I figured out that, hey, we need a way of recording all of this detail in a way that everyone can see it in the business. So we implemented a contact relationship management tool. So every call got logged. We were using High-Rise.
High-Rise?
Yeah, High-Rise by 37 Signals. And that was super easy once everyone was sort of trained up, and we had, from that I wrote a procedure on every time the phone rings, we get a new customer, this is what you do. You write in their full name, the make of their car, their phone number, and then you log what you talked about, and then you can make a task to follow that customer up the next day. And I'd say that was one of our keys to like turning that Andre being, or one person being the system, and like really actually making it that anyone can do that. So if Andre was away and I was answering the phone, I could see what Andre talked to that customer about yesterday. I can talk to him about some stuff, and if I'm away the next day and Andre comes to work, he can sort of like kick in where I finished off.
Right.
So yeah, that was that's kind of, I don't know, that's why I like making systems on doing things.
That single piece of software really transformed the customer service aspect of that business. It was critical and key to the whole customer experience being superior, I think, and that's one of the things that set the business apart as well from the mainstream, I guess.
Right. It's definitely tough to manage or to transition and train your brain from, just fix this car, tune this car, do everything yourself, and then try to make it to where other people can, manipulate the levers themselves.
Totally.
Right?
I think the other thing that probably is important to look at behind that as well is a lot of the small business, small performance workshops, probably all around the world, really have started exactly the same way I started STM, in that it was a means to an end and something the guy was passionate about and could do. So they've kind of fallen into that role, and maybe being a business owner and looking at the business aspect of it hasn't really come front and center. So all of that stuff gets overlooked. And,
but it does over time. And then you start to realize the importance of those things, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the customer's still the key. They're the ones that are putting the food on the table at the end of the day.
Right. Do you guys ever doubt yourselves or think, what if this doesn't work? How do you deal with the devil on your shoulder, Do you have self-doubt?
Every damn day.
Yeah, it exists. It is real.
How do you deal with it?
I think one of the things that's been really beneficial is having the two of us working together, and one of us will have a down day or a bad day or some shit's hit the fan, and we're kind of there to pick up each other and kind of keep motivated and stay on task. But yeah, it is hard. There's always challenges, and just when you've overcome one, sometimes something else will pop up. But at the same time, that's also getting past those challenges. You feel a real sense of achievement.
The one method that I use to overcome that stuff is you write down all of your problems on a big list. You write the biggest, most horrible problem at the top, and then you just knock that bad boy off by working hard and getting it done. And then everything on your list seems like it's not that bad, and makes it a lot more manageable.
Yeah, I think what we tend to do is build up what may actually be a small problem, and in our minds we create it into this big monster. So it's easy to put that off and procrastinate. If you actually just focus on it, hit it head on and deal with it, often you sort of come out the other side and go, well, what was I even worried about?
Right. It's funny how you build up a problem and make it like it's this huge thing, and then when you look back, you're like, oh, it's really not that big of a deal. I don't know what I was tripping about.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's funny. Well, tell us something right now that you guys are doing that has you fired up. What's going on at HPA? What's going on in your guys' world that's getting you fired up?
Look, at the moment, we're in this really weird state of limbo where we've just moved into our new premise, and we've got a lot of setup to do. But one thing that we are really fired up about right now is our new remote engine dyno facility. So, okay, we've obviously got these training courses. We teach people the fundamentals behind EFI tuning. We've got some practical courses where those are applied. We show people how to use that information for both dyno tuning and road tuning. The problem is, at the end of that, sometimes the customer's got no way of then going and applying that knowledge. So if they want to tune their own car, they're in sort of an area where they've got to hire some expensive dyno time. Maybe they need a wideband, some knock detection equipment. So what we've done, what we're in the process of doing, is setting up a remote dyno facility where we've got at the moment it's a Toyota 2ZZFE 4-cylinder engine. It's going to be going on our mainline engine dyno, which we don't have yet. It's on the water or being built. I'm not sure where Todd's at with that. And we've got the ability, we've done some custom software, we've got the ability for someone to connect in via the internet, and they can control both the dyno as well as the ECU connected to that engine. And we've got a little slider that allows them to control the throttle position through the electronic throttle body. So they can literally tune this engine from anywhere in the world that they've got an internet connection. And we're going to sell that on an hourly basis, and people can just buy time and train and teach themselves and practice the skills that they've learned.
Wow. So how's that going to work specifically? Are you going to be there over a webinar or kind of in their ear? How does that work?
It's kind of opening up a whole bunch of opportunities for us. In its most simple state, it will work as a standalone system where the customer can come in and just kind of have free reign to do what he wants. And sometimes for some people, that is a really good way of learning just by having a play. And it also is going to allow us to do training, like one-on-one training, where someone else can be in charge of the dyno, and we can, like you say, have his ear using Skype, just being able to talk him through what he should be doing. And it also opens up some opportunities for us to do testing, so provide an actual test that people can do, so we can make sure that they understand the tuning process and what we've taught them. My goal is to have that dyno working 24 hours a day. It would be the perfect solution for us, and have people on it all of the time.
And obviously that means it's going to be automated. Right now we ran that product as a very sort of rough proof of concept on our old Dynapack using a sort of an adapter trolley. And we had a guy from France and a guy from Texas tune it. So we know it works, but it definitely needs a lot more development. Right now we just want to get it up and running, and that's quickly going to show what areas we need to focus on and improve it as well.
What fail-safes are in place to keep people from damaging the engine?
At the moment, absolutely nothing, which has been fine because every time someone's been on that dyno, I've been standing there watching, so that makes it easy. But of course, there will be someone out there. I'd be one of those guys who would.
I'm having a bad day. I'll pay you a couple $100 to blow that thing up.
I'm gonna take 25% fuel out of number 4 cylinder and add a bunch of time, and I'm gonna hold it at wide open throttle until something sticks its head out the side of the block. And while it's only a $600 junkyard motor, we kind of don't want to be replacing that 4 or 5 times a week. So, yeah, we will have some safety precautions on there, which will be controlled through a separate ECU that the user won't have access to, just to try and keep our investment alive for at least a little bit.
We want to make it so that there's no liability. So it gives the people that are trying to tune or trying to learn tuning safety in the knowledge that if they wreck it, that's on us rather than them.
Right. So you guys have experienced a good deal of growth. How do you do that in New Zealand with the limited population? And then how did you jump the pond and start to gain traction in the U.S.? What's the most successful method that you've found to promote your business? Can you pinpoint just one?
Yeah, we've had really good results with running free webinars, where we basically market using Facebook, because I found it to be the easiest way to do it. And we say to people, hey, come along and get educated about tuning. We'll give you a lesson that's kind of half an hour long, stuff that you'll never really see if you go to a tuning workshop. We'll tell you how the dyno works. We'll show you the screen of the ECU. And we'll teach you a few things. We'll also have a bit of a discussion so you can ask questions. And we've pretty much found that to be the best way of getting people interested in what we're doing, or getting visibility to them. And once they see what we're doing, they're like, well, hey, I'm really interested in learning a lot more about this. And the best thing with tuning is it kind of it's never ending. There's always something more that you can learn. So it's that's the best way that we've done it. And using that Facebook advertising, you can target people so well that the budget that you're spending is better than any magazine advertising you could want.
Right, for sure.
We kind of learned the method back in speed tech days, where we wanted to get into a completely different market. We were focused because of Andre's success in drag racing. We had a lot of people with Evo 3s, which were getting really long in the tooth and quite cheap to buy. So the people that owned them didn't have the money that they needed to do the mods that they wanted to do. So we said, hey, there's not a long-term business in doing this. It's really fun and we love doing it, but we want to we want something else that can prop up the business. And we focused on a particular make of car, a Holden Commodore, quite popular here and have an LS motor in them. And we were able to get a list from our Land Transport Authority of everyone who had a Holden Commodore in Wellington. And so we just sent them an invitation to a free night, have some beers at Speed Tech and learn basically what your car is capable of if we put an exhaust in over the radiator intake and reflash it. And we had great results with that. And so the free webinar and using Facebook is kind of like a copy of that translates to the online world.
Tell me more about the webinars. That seems pretty cool. And that also expands, obviously, to the entire world, right? Now you're not... It has nothing to do with being local. It has everything to do with, like, whomever you can put that webinar in front of.
We can manage. So until we had our own facility, we were kind of tied down with the time zone. So we were doing things really early in the morning or really late at night to try and target different people. But the webinar concept is quite cool, and we base a large amount of our business on that. So with HPA, there's two ways that you can learn with us. You can buy a course, and that gives you the information like we were talking about before, and the broken up really nicely, and that's yours for life. And then we've got a sort of a membership side to the business. That is regular webinars. So we'll select a topic and invite you to it. Usually they're about an hour long, and we go really, really in depth. We answer your specific questions. So you as a member can come in, you watch a live video of Andre's face, the dyno screen, and the laptop screen, and you can see everything that we're doing. And you also have a little chat box if you have any questions, and you can ask those questions there, and Andre will answer them via the webinar.
Yeah.
And then we archive those, so there's a big archive now.
Them later.
Yeah, and so that's really good if you're having trouble, or I like to think of it as if you are just hungry for knowledge and you want to keep. It's a good way to spend an hour every week or so just getting excited about a particular feature, or even there's a whole bunch of tuners throughout the world that don't have, like, they may be just a one-man band tuning cars, and they don't have anyone to talk to or
bounce ideas off.
Exactly, bounce ideas off. All that stuff happens inside those webinars, and we're building quite a cool community where there's webinar attendees that know each other from different countries, never met each other in real life or in any other place, and are now sort of creating relationships there.
Yeah.
So I think the other thing that's powerful about those particular webinars is we're in a unique position where, as a tuner, you're usually limited by what your customers bring you through the door as to the products you see. And that can make it quite hard to keep up to date with the modern technology. What's the latest products on the market? What's the latest ECUs available? What are these features? And these webinars, we're able to focus on some of those products or some of these features that these tuners may not otherwise get a chance to see. It gives them a better understanding of what they can get access to, what they can offer their customers, and how that's going to make it easier for them to do their job and get better results for their customer.
Right, it opens up the doors to new opportunities, really things that maybe they weren't even going to be exposed to otherwise.
Well, it's so great that that increase in knowledge may mean that when they talk to a customer next, they're all like, oh, actually, I've never done it myself, but I've watched a webinar about it a week ago, and I can set that up for you. Just that knowing it exists is one thing, and then also seeing it being set up and going through the ins and outs of it kind of makes you an expert.
Do you guys do the webinars weekly, and is it scheduled like every Thursday at noon kind of a situation,
really,
or how does it work?
So at the moment, previously we were running them out of Andre's old workshop, and we had to do it outside of business hours. So we were aiming for, and because I was in a different city, we were aiming for one every 2 weeks. When our dyno arrives, we're going to kick that up a notch, and we're going to try and offer a webinar a week, and we're going to vary the time zones just to make sure that we're hitting enough people so everyone in the world can benefit.
That was really one of the drivers as well. We decided, no, we need our own facility, because trying to work our timing around a dyno that was busy, 45 hours a week just wasn't working for us.
Yeah. So have you guys made the complete shift then from that business to a completely different business now, right? So you've identified that HPA is where you're going to spend your time and invest your efforts, and that's a new endeavor. So we're going to start seeing more stuff from HPA moving forward.
So until sort of 3 weeks ago, our attention was split, and it wasn't our full-time gig. But now it's all HPA all the time.
So I think what you're going to see out there is a lot more content coming out, and for the last couple of years, while this has been a proof of concept, I've had the backstop of a salary coming from STM, and that's kind of cut off and dried up now. So I've got to really work my ass off, otherwise my wife's going to be starving.
Right, so you're going to have to do it now.
Exactly.
It's a great motivator.
It's the best motivator.
No doubt. So that's a perfect transition. Explain the worst experience that you've had in business, and go into detail here, because this is what people really don't understand. They look at successful business people and other people in the industry, and everybody's going through struggles, and everybody's been through it, but nobody talks about it. People really can relate to those situations where you've been flat on the floor, like, dude, I'm fucked. Can you take us to a situation like that and how you got around it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is a case of anyone who's been in business for any length of time. It's not a case of the one time. It's which of the times would you like to talk about? And right now for Ben and myself, I'd actually say one of those times is right now. So I've just given up the safety backstop of a reasonably lucrative tuning workshop. I don't have that anymore. We're also in a position where I had a fully equipped workshop that had been developed over 14 years. So everything was there. It was all set up. So now over the last 2 or 3 months, Ben and I have been in this weird limbo with High Performance Academy. We're waiting on the sale to go through for STM. We were setting up premises down in Queenstown. We were travelling backwards and forwards between our respective cities. and it made it really hard over the last 2 months to focus our attention on HPA. We haven't really been able to do marketing. We've got this really weird situation with trying to carefully manage our cash flow so we don't run out of money. And at the same time, we've got huge expenses cropping up because now we need to put in a new dyno. We need to build a whole workshop facility. So yeah, right now, that's a really scary time for both of us, is starting from scratch, basically, putting all of our trust and faith that this business is the way it's going to work for us, and making sure that the money keeps coming in.
Why do you make that leap when things are relatively comfortable?
I think I had just changed my priorities, and I found that I really was passionate about teaching and about passing on this knowledge that I touched on earlier, the frustration I felt for the industry that we were working in. That really, really hit me quite hard. And I didn't think it was fair on the good, competent tuners out there. And I found that while tuning a car for a customer is somewhat rewarding, and, you know, the customer leaves and he's happy with how his car performs, maybe you've made a huge improvement in power and torque, and that's great. On a one-to-one basis, that's okay, but you're only touching sort of one customer at a time. With HPA, I saw the opportunity to reach a wider market and make it a big difference. And I think, yeah, over the last 18 months, my focus, my passion has just shifted, and I realized that this business, High Performance Academy, was what I was truly passionate about. It was somewhere that Ben and I could actually make a difference to the industry. And that's a little harder to do from a small performance workshop.
Well, we can definitely leave a legacy with HPA that's going to outlast both of us, which is it's pretty cool to think about.
Exactly.
We know the feeling that we want to feel with HPA is that same feeling when you're drag racing and you've had 10 meets that haven't gone your way, and then finally everything clicks into place and that car hooks up real good and you get your PB and your customer's happy and you're happy, and that feeling for that, like, just that couple of seconds is amazing.
Right.
And we want to feel that, like, with HPA and with all of that, is we can do it on a much, much larger scale.
Right. Of course, it straight away breaks down the barrier of New Zealand is a small country. We've only got 4 million people living here, so there's only so much you can do. And being internet-based now, we've got access to the entire English-speaking world, so our market is bigger. We can help more people. And I mean, I'll just give one example with a client, a customer of ours that's been with us from the start, based over in Australia. And he was working in a mechanical workshop, and they had an old dyno tucked away in the corner, never got used. It was covered in rags, just collecting dust. And after going through a couple of our courses, they pulled that dyno out, they set it up, and now he's tuning cars regularly, getting additional income from this piece of equipment that was just neglected, sitting there, wasting away. And he's got a good customer base he's built up, he's getting great results, and he's really passionate about that industry that he's moving into. So that's exciting for us, making an actual difference to someone else's life.
No doubt. At the end of the day, that's really what it's all about.
Yeah.
You know? So what's your guys, either one of you, Andre or Ben, or both, what's your Achilles heel? What are you not good at?
So many things.
What are you really not good at? Expand.
So just like we talked about before with the I'll do Andre, and Andre can do me. Andre's Achilles heel is he struggles to get out of the system. So creating an ecosystem where he is definitely a necessary part of the equation. For example, we've just our forum. We've got, in that membership side of things, we've got a forum, and that gets pretty busy, and we want to give our all to that and help our members as much as possible. That has now resulted in Andre every morning for, say, 3 hours is furiously typing on a laptop, answering people's questions. And I think we need to probably work on finding more people that are smart to help us answer these questions, smart and experienced, rather than just sort of hammering away at answering the questions. And I suppose that is a really hard thing to do, is once you're in there and you're doing it, it's hard to refocus time into figuring out how you don't have to do that again.
I think that is a key point that Ben raised. I mean, we spent probably the first half of my life in STM building the business up around my name. And then we quickly realized when Ben came on board that that didn't really provide a very good business model. So we spent the next 5 years getting rid of that and making it about the brand as opposed to a single person. And we just want to be careful with the High Performance Academy that we don't fall into that same trap. But Ben's commented on me, so yeah, I'll comment on probably his issue. No, not an issue. This is a great thing, and this is why we work so well together. As Ben is an ideas guy, and he's always got a new idea. Literally daily, he's got a list of new ideas and new directions that we could take High Performance Academy in, and most of the time, all of them are valid. Most of them, at least, are valid. We're not going to try selling snails or seeds, but he's got some great ideas. And the problem is we only have, just like every business, there's only so many hours in the day. And really the challenge for us is staying focused on, okay, those are all great ideas. Let's put them on a list. We'll look at them in 6 months or 12 months time. But for right now, let's just stick to what we're doing and stay in that direction.
That is so true. I don't know if you've ever been in this situation, Reed, but you hear someone's story about their business and how it's doing well, and you're like, I was listening to a buddy of mine say, hey, I'm in this restaurant business, I'm doing all of these cool things all around the world, and I'm like, wow, that is really cool. Like, I want that. Like, screw HPA, let's do this and get into the restaurant business. And then I was telling Andre this story, and he's like, you know that we are all around the world with HPA, and we could probably just work harder on this and would get pretty good results. And, we've already done a lot of work in the right direction. And I'm like, you bring up a great point.
It's just, trying to avoid the distraction and stay focused. And to be fair, Ben and I are both guilty of this. There's some shiny goal off to the side that all of a sudden seems more interesting than punching out course content for our next course, and we want to focus on that. And it's just a case of bringing it back and saying, no, that's not for us. It's not for now.
It's huge. I deal with that myself, where you're constantly like, oh, that's really exciting. I want to go do that, because you're in the middle of the hard part of your previous project, and it's more fun to go start something new.
There will always be a hard part of whatever project you are doing.
Yeah.
Have you read The Dip?
Yeah.
Have you read the book, The Dip?
Yeah, I have a while ago.
I love that book. So Seth Godin's The Dip it's like a short little book, but it talks about that exact situation where like you have to have the chutzpah, right, to survive the boring portion of what you just committed to, and make sure that you get something out of all the time that you've put into it, and you don't just abandon. So that's killer that you guys can recognize that and you're moving forward with exciting new stuff.
I think probably one key advantage that both of us do have, that while we don't always do what we know we should be doing, I think we're both reasonably self-aware of our own weaknesses. And as soon as you're self-aware, it makes it a lot easier to do something about that.
Right. So I already know the answer to this question for Andre, I think, but expand on it. Do you try and do everything yourself? Like, get out of the way, I'm going to do that.
It's a constant challenge to try and not do that. I think collectively both Ben and I are a lot better at it than we used to be. But it is still definitely a problem that probably holds both of us back. And I think one of the keys to our success with High Performance Academy will be breaking down that barrier and outsourcing the stuff that we can outsource. Right now, though, to put that in perspective, we are also fairly fresh in this business. We're only a couple of years in, and right now I feel like we probably still need to spend a little bit of time putting in those hard yards and really building it up. before we can sort of hand off to a number of third parties in some instances. That's
hard yards?
Ben?
Yeah, that's fair.
Hard yards, I love that. That's a killer saying.
It's the truth.
So what's your big, hairy, audacious goal for HP Academy and for both of your careers?
I think it really, we've kind of touched on it already, but we actually do genuinely have a big, hairy, audacious goal, and that is to implement an industry standard certification program. And that kind of touches on what I started out with, that right now, if you want to become an engine tuner and you've got $40,000 or $100,000 in your bank, you can buy a dyno. That's it. You're an engine tuner. And what we want to do is implement an industry-wide training program that results in certification. This will be, hopefully, we want it to be supported by the aftermarket ECU manufacturers. And then what happens, this is obviously going to be a fairly uphill battle to get to a point where we've got some momentum in that. We'll get to a point where customers will be choosing the tuner that they go to based on whether or not these guys are certified. And again, the aim is to help build up the professionalism in the aftermarket performance industry, as well as the results that are being achieved. Build up that confidence for the customer that when they go to get their car tuned, they know they're dealing with someone that's going to provide results.
That's definitely a big, hairy, audacious goal, my friend.
You're not wrong.
No doubt. You guys got a lot of hard yards in front of you.
We sure do.
That's awesome.
To be fair, we also see High Performance Academy as being a little bit bigger in the long term than just performance EFI tuning. There's a huge amount of demand. We've already touched on it very briefly. We've got a wiring fundamentals course, which is a very basic wiring course. There's demand there for mil-spec based wiring courses. There's demand for engine building, and then we can move into general mechanical. So there's no limit to where we can take this.
So we like to take action on Do It for a Living. Can you suggest one action item to our listeners that they can do this week to improve their situation?
That is just throw us straight under the bus with that one, Reed.
That's right. Give me a good one.
I'm going to hand this one off to Ben while I think about it a little bit.
Well, what you can do is you can sign up for a bronze membership on the High Performance Academy. It's free, so you can join up, and it's free to join. And you'll get an invite to our next webinar. And if you're interested in tuning, that's a nice free way for you to figure out if tuning is something that you want to learn more about, or just to see how it goes. We've got tech articles and all sorts of stuff you can access when you're for free on HPA, and that's a good way to get involved, and it won't cost you $1.
And I'm going to add one that's a little less marketing based. Read a book. Listen to a book. It doesn't really matter what you're into, what part of the business you're into. There's just a huge amount of resource out there, and there's just information available to help you improve your business or whatever it is you're trying to do. That information is out there, and for the most part, it's either free or very close to it as well. So there's no reason not to be improving your skill set.
I will put a second vote in for that. Audio books are how I've got the business to where it is today, I think. Audio books and podcasts. If I am walking, running, driving at the gym, I always have a book in my ear.
Give me one example of a book that you're listening to right now, or one that's been awesome for you.
I'm listening to How to Train a Puppy.
Yeah?
Written by some Buddhist monks. It's quite interesting, and hopefully it will be useful to me soon. I think you've got a pretty good list on your website, actually. So,
sure.
I went in and had a look through, and I think about 90% of those books I have listened to.
I'll add to that as well. So I'm not really the marketing side of the business. It's the technical side that turns my wheels. And I've been finding recently there's an unlimited amount of knowledge and technical knowledge out there in the SAE papers. So if I want to know something, research a topic or an aspect that I want to know more about, and one for me that's current is direct injection timing. And there's just numerous resources out there in SAE papers that can be downloaded relatively cheaply, and you're getting some real high level inside knowledge. And no matter what the topic is, if it's automotive based, there will be papers out there. So that's the way I'm getting a lot of knowledge at the moment. Right.
And so for anybody that's listening, that's SAE.org, and there's all kinds of papers that you can download for minimal cost.
Exactly.
You can search by topic, and so that's a killer resource too. Thank you. So hey, I want to jump to quick answer questions. These ones I'm just going to fire off at you and try to not dive in too deep. So tell us about a game-changing product that you've seen in the last year.
I think it's hard to narrow it down to just one. I think for me, I've got two products I'd mentioned there. One is the Plex knock monitor. We've dealt with the guys at Plex Tuning in Greece for a couple of years, and we've got one of their Plex knock monitors, and that is a game-changing product from a tuning perspective. I've used a number of audio knock detection pieces of equipment, and this is without a doubt the clearest way of distinguishing detonation or knock from background engine noise. So for me, it lets me do a more precise job of dialing in the ignition timing and making sure that the engine isn't undergoing knock. Also interfaces with ECUs and dynos as well, which will bring me to the next product I should mention there. I think Mainline's new hub dyno, their Pro Hub 4000, I think that's going to be a game changer for the real high end sort of, I'm talking Pro Mod 4,000 horsepower drag cars, where previously these guys had to tune at the track. They've got to be either blowing up parts or leaving a bunch of power on the table when you can't see exactly what's going on. So I think probably over the next 18 months, you're going to see a lot of improvements in Pro Mod racing based on the guys that have enlisted the use of a mainline hub dyno.
To be able to strap directly to a car with that much power is definitely a game changer. But tell me more about the Plex knock monitor and how you're using it without it being interfaced with the ECU.
Okay, so it can be used just simply as an audio knock device. So it's completely standalone. You can place an additional knock sensor onto the engine block. The version 2, which we're now testing and using, has dual knock sensors, which is ideal for a V configuration engine. You can use one per bank. So then the knock sensor input goes into a little digital unit, which then applies digital signal processing to remove the background engine noise. And I find that I've used it.
How does it know what's background engine noise?
Well, what it's doing is it's focusing on the frequency that it knows knock will occur at, which is very closely based on the bore diameter of the engine. So you actually enter that parameter into the knock monitor. You tell it what the bore diameter of your engine is, and then it can focus on the frequency of knock. It's also got a bunch of audio filters that you can apply. So particularly on our Toyota 86 or Scion FRS as it is, I find that the 10 kilohertz high pass filter, which is looking at the second harmonic of knock, it's just faultless for detecting knock. All you get is a gentle background hum, and then if you get a hit of detonation or knock, it's a really loud, sharp crack, and there's just no way you can miss it. At the same time, the other thing it does is it gives you a visual representation, so you can hook up a RPM source, or better still, take a pulse from the ignition channel out of the ECU for cylinder 1, and it will give you a graph of the noise level versus RPM, so you can then produce a threshold. So automatically, if the noise increases above the threshold, it'll bring on a visual warning for you, telling you that knock's occurred. And even better, you can also do individual cylinder knock detection all from that unit. So it's very, very advanced.
And you've found that you trust that
Absolutely.
The data that you get?
It was actually a bit of an eye-opener because I've had the Motec M150 on our 86 for probably about 12 months. And when I first got the Plex knock monitor, I already had the closed-loop knock control function on the M1 dialed in what I thought was pretty well. And when I put the Plex knock monitor on the engine and found that maybe my tuning of the closed-loop knock function actually needed some work, particularly the threshold wasn't tight enough. So it really opened my eyes.
Good stuff. So what software program are you using on a daily basis?
At the moment, I'm writing a lot of course material for some courses that we're doing, and we're using Google Docs for that. Excel's another one that, just the best way of analyzing data. And Motec's i2 and i2 Pro, I use that when I'm at the track regularly for analyzing data quickly and accurately.
Right.
Yeah, I'll plus
are you an Excel
as well. I love Excel.
Yeah, you guys are Excel geeks?
Yeah, in a different way. I don't use it for the numbers side of things, but importing and exporting and merging customer databases, things like that, out of the various online software that we run.
Sure.
It's indispensable.
Got it. How about an app? What's your favorite app, or what app are you using daily?
We use Receipt Bank, which is pretty cool.
What's that?
So for the business side of your business, any invoices that you purchase, you take a photo with them on your phone, and then they are transcribed, and you can import them into your accounting software, or we're using Xero, which is like an online accounting system, and you can just automatically import them in. So it means no more sort of entering invoices every day and no big fat wallet full of receipts.
Yeah, it gets really tiring dragging receipts around all the time, making sure you look after them.
I'm looking at a stack of receipts on my desk right now.
Yeah, it gets rid of those.
Receipt Bank, go look it up.
I'm definitely going to check that out. Thank you. What about a favorite shop tool? Ben and Andre, what do you guys got?
I'll go back. We've still got another favorite app. I think both Ben and
I
are guilty of spending way too much time on Instagram, be it for personal use or obviously we promote High Performance Academy through our Instagram account as well. But yeah, if you're really procrastinating and trying to put off a hard task, it's pretty easy to blow half an hour on Instagram.
True story.
Andre also admitted to me yesterday that he loves Pinterest.
Yeah, that's true. I always thought that Pinterest was maybe more a feminine app, and I expected like baby clothes and maybe flower arrangements, but I've just bought a new house down here in Queenstown, and it turns out it's actually pretty handy for looking at renovation ideas. So yeah, wasting a bit of time on Pinterest as well.
And wheel options on your car. It's also good for.
There's
thousands and thousands of pictures on there.
Yeah.
I've never dove into Pinterest, so I can't
Don't
even
write
comment.
it off, Reed.
I'll have to check it out now, right?
Yeah, totally.
So what about a favorite shop tool, guys?
I think
get more creative than dyno. Come on.
Oh man, you really just
I know.
threw me under the bus again.
I know, taking the wind out of your sails.
I like our new drill.
Yeah, the one he just put through his finger.
Yeah. It's very powerful, and the reverse function is very, very helpful.
Yeah.
Well, your dyno's going to do a little bit something different, right? We already talked about that.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I guess the dyno would have to be my go-to tool. I don't have one here yet, which is a really weird position for me. I've had an in-house dyno for the last 10 years, and we're waiting with bated breath for our mainline dyno to turn up. So hopefully that'll be in a few days, actually. Beyond that, I mean, my shop tool of choice is still, I guess, the laptop. I mean, I do everything on the laptop, be it writing course material or actually tuning a car. So that's a key one for me.
What kind of laptop do you have?
I've actually got two. I do most of my creative stuff on a MacBook Pro. And I run a piece of software called VMware Fusion, which allows me to run almost all of the PC-based tuning software on it. Because as you know, Reed, obviously the tuning world is very PC-based.
Sure.
found though that the MacBook, when we're doing training courses, there's a few problems with that for creating screen captures, etc. So I had to sort of suck it up and buy a PC as well. So I've got a Samsung PC notebook, which I despise with a passion.
I'm confused. You're the only tuner that I think that I've ever met that is a Mac guy. How does that happen?
I think I can blame Ben for that. He pretty much just beat me around the head with Apple this and Apple that until I just succumbed and converted. And I'd have to say he was right. I wouldn't look back.
Yeah, more time working, less time restarting.
So, guys, to end the conversation, what do you think the future of automotive performance is as you see it?
Look, I think I've listened to a few of these, and the general sort of angle is being DI, and I kind of have to agree. I think direct injection will play a part. I imagine it's still a few years off being really mainstream, but it's definitely something that Ben and I are focusing on. We've been really lucky with one of our project cars being a Toyota 86 or FRS in the US market, where we've got
both.
We've got DI, we've got port injection as the perfect test bed for playing with these technologies. But you know what? It's not scary. There is a little bit to learn and apply. But that'll become important. And I think the other thing that's really going to be important for a lot of tuners out there is developing some more knowledge around CAN. With modern cars now, it's becoming increasingly difficult to remove a factory ECU and fit a standalone. The whole car communicates, every component communicates together via CAN. And developing an understanding of how CAN works, how to decode the CAN messages, and how to replicate those with some of the more sophisticated ECUs on the market now is going to be the key to supporting these newer vehicles.
I think CAN's more important than DI.
Yeah,
I think CAN is the thing that people aren't talking about. And look, you can't modify modern cars with a standalone ECU without CAN control.
Exactly.
Unless you're going to leave the stock ECU, and there's all kinds of it's just all kinds of not the right way to do it.
Essentially, with a newer car, unless you're stripping the thing bare and turning it into a race car, you're going to struggle to fit a standalone. And I mean, now we've got ECUs such as the Motec M1 range, where if you're that way inclined by a development license, you can create a package that will work on any car, provided you're smart enough. You can replicate the CAN messaging and everything will work just like it used to.
The thing is, it fundamentally changes the way that the performance aftermarket is going to have to act, because it used to be that a guy in his garage could buy a car and buy an ECU and unplug the stock ECU and plug the new ECU in, and all he would have to do is learn how to tune the car, which that's a hurdle in itself. I mean, you guys have a business around that.
Yeah.
And now it's how to tune the engine, how to communicate with all the CAN body modules and drive all kinds of different devices and communicate with those devices. So when I say it fundamentally changes it, I mean it's no longer the fly-by-night kind of garage mechanic guy being able to buy the car, buy the part, bolt it together. It might even require a team, moving forward.
I think that's a really good point that I was just about to touch on is we're probably getting to a point with some of these newer cars where it does get a bit bigger than just maybe one person, because let's be honest, I'm an engine tuner. I'm not a computer programmer or a coder, and that's sort of those two areas are starting to merge together. People are pretty smart, and there's going to be a market for certain brands of cars, certain models of car that are going to be well supported in the aftermarket. And honestly, it's not going to matter what the manufacturer does. There's going to be a team of people out there, whether they work for an ECU manufacturer or they're a third party, and they're going to break down that computer, they're going to break down that ECU, and they're going to make it accessible for us in the aftermarket. So, the popular cars, there's always going to be tuning options. Maybe not within 2 or 3 months of them coming off the showroom floor, but certainly in 12 months, you'll see options available for those cars that are highlighted as the popular tuner models.
I agree with both of you that they're two very important technologies like DI and the CAN communication, but they're just two technologies that have come out recently. There will be more in the future. I think the industry is going to change where you're actually going to need education to do these things. Like with CAN, if you just sat down like Andre figured out how engine tuning works many years ago, how to tune ignition, he would spend hours and hours. He would never get it done without some form of structured learning behind that. For me, I see education as one of those things, because we're going to get to the point where people want to modify their electric cars, and there are going to be systems in there that none of us really understand. And without sort of some more formal education stuff, it's almost going to be, it's going to make that job a lot harder for that small team or single mechanic.
Yeah. It's going to require that they have some certain level of understanding.
Yeah.
I think there's that sort of challenge of keeping up to date with those modern technologies that come out, and I've seen that with other tuners in the marketplace that are maybe getting a little bit older, and a new ECU or a new technology comes out, and they sort of almost throw up their hands like, "No, I found my sweet spot in life, and this is what I'm going to carry on with." And you kind of saw that even back in the carburetor days.
I was just going to say, there's entire generations of people
totally.
like that.
They tune carburetors. EFI came along and they're like, you know what? Nah, that's just not my bag. I'm not going to learn that. And that for us as a challenge is like, we don't want to get pigeonholed in this current sort of slate of technology that's out there. So for us, the challenge is making sure that we watch what's happening, don't get scared of it, embrace it, learn it, and figure it out.
Boom. I love it. So, guys, what's the future for you and your company? I think we already dove into that a little bit, but what's the next couple of years look like?
Honestly, I think the next couple of years is going to be some pretty hard work. Just getting our base of courses up and running. It's still a new business. We've got a lot of systems to put in place. We need to get third parties involved creating course content. So as Ben said, it's no longer just about me. I need to make that's really important. I think for Ben and myself though as well, and one of the reasons we've moved to Queenstown is business is really important to us. We love what we're doing with High Performance Academy. We also want to make sure that we don't lose sight of a lifestyle. So we've moved to the adventure tourism capital of New Zealand. We've got some of the best snowboarding mountains anywhere in the world. We've got lakes for jet skiing, jet boating. There's a members-only racetrack that's local as well. So we want to really embrace that and make sure that we get a balance in our lives so we're not just working 20 hours a day, because that's so easy to fall into that trap and just bust your ass around the clock and lose track of what's actually important.
Well said, my friend. Well said. Easier said than done.
Much.
Yeah, come back to us in a couple of years' time, and we'll see how burnt out and stressed we are. We'll let you know if that's working out for us.
I'll send that audio clip to you.
Yeah. And, just maybe send it once a month.
As a reminder, yeah. So how do we connect with you and your company?
We're pretty much all over social media. So we're on Facebook. Obviously, it's a big platform for us. Also, follow us on Instagram, HPA101 on Instagram. We've got a really active YouTube channel as well. Ben, maybe you should just carry on with this. This is your sort of area.
Yeah, youtube.com/learn-to-tune. Or you can check us out on our website, hpacademy.com. And you can see the courses that we offer there. You'll also be able to jump in and see the webinar side of things and register for an account if you're interested in learning more. We've got a free one there that'll give you some nice free content.
Nice. So on YouTube, HPA 101?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, on Instagram, yeah. HPA 101.
And then youtube.com/learn-to-tune.
Nice. Guys, thanks so much. Really appreciate the conversation and what you guys are about and finding out more about it. Thanks for taking some time.
Thanks for having us, Reed, and we both really appreciate what you're trying to do for the industry. This resource is going to be really powerful for anyone out there who wants to improve their business. So I applaud you for it.
Yeah,
right on.
The good work.
Thanks, guys. I just hope people can use it. I would have killed for stuff like this when I was doing it.
It's genius.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
You too.
Thanks, Reed.
Thanks for listening to Do It for a Living. You can find out more about this guest, this show, and even details about what we just talked about at our website, doitforaliving.net. Check out the Facebook page at facebook.com/doitforaliving and tell us who you want to hear from. And most importantly, subscribe to the podcast. Click subscribe. Do it now. Seriously. I'll wait while you grab your phone. Open up the podcast app, tap the subscribe button. When you subscribe, you help us gain momentum and attract more high-level guests. Thanks for listening, and good luck.